I'm really happy to hear that you're embracing it at Partner Awesome.
Brother, that is a game changer. It's a game changer.
I'd be in management consulting. Nobody really knows, right? Even sometimes the consultants themselves. Welcome to Amplify AI Partners. I'm your host, Hamza Malik, and today we're diving into one of the most dynamic sectors in business, Fintech, and specifically how the industry is moving beyond traditional banking models to create entirely new financial ecosystems. I'm excited to be joined today by Jason Asher, a strategic partnership expert who brings a unique perspective to our discussion about fintech innovation. Jason founded Partner Awesome, a strategic consulting firm that specializes in helping businesses scale through partner ecosystems and tech integrations. Jason, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Can you please give a little introduction about yourself as well as Partner Awesome?
Sure. Hamza, you kind of summed it up, so I'm not sure I could follow your intro. My name is Jason Asher. Thank you very much for having me. Founder of a thing called Partner Awesome. Partner Awesome was founded on the premise of the core belief that partner ecosystems, when executed correctly, have a phenomenal positive effect on our client as well as our clients' clients. And it's something that I learned, back in my NetSuite days when the platforms or the fintechs in this case that you're working with, when they're able to properly communicate their brand, and they're able to properly communicate the amazing thing that they bring to the world, and we're able to take that and spin up partnerships and enable and authorize and go through a bunch of different workflows to get those partners to the market, in the proper way. It really just, it affects humanity in a really amazing way, because there's a good vibe that goes throughout the ecosystem and that trickles down. When I founded the company, it was really, I really wanted to do something that would be able to have a positive impact on the world and be able to really help businesses get the clarity that they need to build up, thriving ecosystems, and then be able to be successful, while doing it.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started at Partner Awesome? I actually, when I was a management consultant, I actually led a big project on spearheading basically a new service line offering around these indirect channel programs, specifically for SaaS. But I'm interested to know, how you actually got started.
Everything starts with a process. Everything starts with the nucleus of an idea. And over the last 15, 20 years of building ecosystems, we have a framework that we work with that basically sets up businesses to be able to be successful with a partner program, right? Because as we know, this goes beyond referral agreements. This goes beyond high five relationships where it's like, hey, let's partner up and do a LinkedIn post and blog post and go. And we have so everything started with this framework that's been developed over the years, and from that framework, we're able to deliver the awesome to the market. And I'm more than happy to if time permits, more than happy to run through that framework, because it's something that we take a lot of pride and a lot of time to cultivate, and it's something that enables companies that never really had a partner program before to understand the magnitude of it, and not only understand the magnitude of it, but understand that it's a living, breathing organism that needs to be treated like almost like product, or even the product division of a company. So we go in with this framework, and then we start to uncover basically the awesome of that company. And then from there, we're able to build out the basis of trust. And then from the trust that's built from the programs, we're able to expand into other areas of product and service delivery.
That makes a lot of sense. When you talk about building trust and going in, I have in the past, when people ask me oh, what do you do? And I'd be in management consulting. Nobody really knows, right? Even sometimes the consultants themselves. What I found was that the analogy of a quote unquote business doctor had worked well for me, which is to say, companies come to us, a doctor or physical therapist, in which companies either come to us, either they have some kind of symptoms, or they're trying to be best in class, right? They want to be at Olympic levels. We talk
Yeah,
to
yeah,
them, we gather
and
data.
when you find the ones that want to be at the Olympic level, they more likely have dad bods, and they're in their mid 30s or 40s, and they want to they want to be Michael Phelps, or they want to be these Olympians like Kurt Hennig, and then all of a sudden it's like you got to kind of got to work a
You
little
gotta
bit.
work with us. You know, if you want the top treatments, you gotta be willing to let the experts. You gotta build trust there, right? Um,
Yeah, you're not gonna be Brock Lesnar, sitting in your chair all day, eating Doritos. So
yeah, yeah. Okay, so Jason, you mentioned this, this topic of ecosystems,
yeah,
and helping build these partner ecosystems, maybe rather than just individual partnerships. So,
correct,
how does this
correct.
ecosystem approach apply to fintech companies that are trying to create these comprehensive financial solutions, maybe without becoming traditional banks themselves?
So when we're looking at fintechs in particular, there's um there's a lot of very exciting technologies that are out in the world today, and we've had successes with some fintech clients, and truthfully, we've had failures with fintech clients as well. And what we're seeing in the world today is that there's a very big shift away from traditional money in money out models when it comes to either payment orchestration or currency orchestration, right? And even when it comes to crypto, or it comes to different kind of ways of sending money digitally, or it comes to orchestrating FX correctly, or it comes to protecting um, the movement of money. What we're seeing in the market right now is that there are platforms that are coming up. There are clients that we have that have platforms, and what we're seeing is that there's a real value to being able to go into a partner, whether it's an Adobe partner, an NetSuite partner, or some kind of a systems integrator, and then being able to deliver value in ways that either the platform that they're associated with can't, or to deliver value because that particular systems integrator or SaaS platform is stuck within the parameters of trying to get a project live because they don't know how to either take money off a credit card. They don't know how to get money out of China. There are different roadblocks within the global economy today, especially when it comes to marketplaces, where our clients and other fintech platforms really deliver a tremendous amount of value. So then you say to yourself, okay, cool story, Jason. How do you create an ecosystem for this? Right? How do we get from 0 to 1? And that's where our framework really starts to shine, because we're able to talk to the founders, talk to the product folks, talk to marketing, and systematically pull out, pieces of information from either their specific professions, their specific positions, or even from their brains, knowing how to communicate that, downstream to a potential partner, knowing how that will build trust in the solution, that particular platform or client will be able to solve the problem, that's in front of them with their client. So there's a lot of moving parts, Hunter, to the whole process, but it really starts and ends with what is the truth of what you can do, what are the constraints of your platform, and what do you believe your ICP is, and then once we have those, just the simplicity of that down, then that enables us to basically land and expand into an ecosystem.
That makes a lot of sense to me. This is one question that I've just seen as a consumer, which is that, we're starting to see financial services being embedded into non-financial platforms, right?
Yep.
I want to
Yep.
go buy something online. I got an option to finance it, whether it's through Klarna or a firm. And there's a funny thing I've seen on Twitter, or X, I should say, around, financing your Chipotle order. And we're seeing this, from e-commerce all the way to healthcare. So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
are, these partnership strategies enabling this kind of, I guess, invisible banking, for lack of a better word, trend?
That's an interesting one. I think it was around, I was saying in the early 20 teens, a lot of e-commerce brands, um, even dentists, doctors, a lot of folks were trying to figure out ways to be able to take on clients in underserved markets. And I think that Beats by Dr. Dre really set that standard, I think, back in at the end of 2012, started 2013, when they started to have their installment plans on what then was called the demandware platform, right? Whereas, folks who were in underserved markets, some couldn't get credit, but they could get an installment plan in order to get these, really cool headphones in 23 different countries around the world. And I think what happened was a lot of fintech investors and founders like, wait a second, the Federal Trade Commission says that we can have an installment plan, and other countries around the world say we got an installment plan. So why not have something like a Klarna or an Afterpay, where it becomes a buy now pay later, which is basically a fintech version of an installment plan. So I think, Hamza, we have to look at the past history of retail to understand the notion of invisible banking, right? And everything started really on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, back in the late 1800s, where it's like, oh, can I put that on layaway? So no, can I find something in your store, Mr. or Mrs. Shop owner on Delancey Street, or down on the Lower East Side, or even in the early days of Abraham Strauss, and the early days of department stores, especially in Lower Manhattan, specifically around the Flatiron district. You had the first department stores in the country form at that time. You had Gibbons, you had R.H. Macy, you had Abraham Strauss, Orbex, all these storied department store brands that started this whole layaway thing. So if you went to the store in August and September, like, hey, I want that for my my child, or my spouse, or my friend, or my grandmother, for the holiday time, I'm gonna basically give you a line of credit. If I'm the store, I'm gonna write it up at that time as like a ticket, and then you're gonna come back and give me money once a month, come in and pay your bill. And then eventually from there, banks got involved, financing got involved, interest rates got involved. So we have to remember where it started. Everything started in the late 1800s, and then as banking has evolved, you reach kind of this termination point, with what a bank is actually capable of doing, right? And once you reach that termination point, that's where I think a lot of the fintechs come in. The Klarnas, the Afterpays, Zezel, pay for, all of these different buy now, pay laters, and say, look, we're going to be a technology version of this. We're going to do what banks can't do. They can't cross certain lines of collecting customer data. They can't cross certain lines of payment processing. But with the buy now, pay laters, we really see that if you're somebody who can't obtain credit for whatever reason, you're able to pay over time. So now the e-commerce merchants, the dentists, the doctors, lawyers, services in general that were ordinarily payable by check or credit card are now paid over time. It's a way that a lot of these brands can expand their customer base, with very little risk of not getting paid, because the risk in buy now, pay later is not really on the merchants. It's on the platform. So if the platform fails, and we saw this with Afterpay, quite a few years ago, when their evaluation went from like in the billions to like 345 million overnight, you kind of opened up the barrel there. You looked in, and you're like, oh wow, there's a few dead fish. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not a roll paved with gold like all these investors thought. So it's a phenomenal tool, if you will, to expand the market, and it's wonderful that underserved markets and other folks who have issues with credit, or they need to elongate payment timelines. It's a wonderful solution, but the risk involved with maintaining that full time is the why of having to raise the hundreds of millions of dollars that they had to raise. So along with, like you said, the invisible banking piece, there's still a very real risk associated with these solutions.
I think that was a really insightful answer. I love the historical foundation there. I'm a student of history. I'm a real nerd when it comes to that stuff. Um, but yeah, no, I think
No, Hamza. A lot of people don't. A lot of people, the thing is, like, the world moves so fast and so digital today that sometimes you don't know where things come from,
right.
and in order to understand how to position a client, how to position, a platform, is that it's like, for instance, like today, you can download like Filmic, or you could download Blackmagic Design video editors right to your iPhone. Okay, not 15, 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, you were using Sony beta tapes to like go,
You-
deck to deck, and then you actually had to know the ins and the outs of the audio and whatnot. So when you understand where it came from, and you know the historical background of it, you understand how human beings interact with finance, technology, and money. When you have that kind of background and you have that kind of knowledge and historical context, you know the truth of what the human being needs on the other side of that website. And I think where a lot of fintechs fail, either with their partner programs, with their solution, is that they don't take the time to go, okay, why do people behave this way? And then how is our solution, either the antidote to the behavior, the medicine of the behavior, or the solution to the behavior? And then how are we doing that in a fair way where we're availing them to the consequences of using these financial tools? So as much as it's about, as you said, how these technologies are being leveraged with invisible banking, it's also about, does the consumer understand, and does the partner understand, what they're
Right.
actually getting themselves into? And a lot of times when we encounter potential new partners that we build out and we on board for our clients, we make sure that there's a very, very clear understanding of that, because if we feel that there's not, we're not going to move forward, because we know that the partner on the other side would create a risk for our client.
hmm No, and I think even your point, on that thread of the understanding kind of where we come from, I think it's a salient point if we just think about it in terms of a 101 high level, right? Some of these, platforms, I guess that fall into the category, right, of invisible banking or shadow banking. You might see that term in the journal. Okay, so you just take something that's already existing, that has existed for a while, in this case, layaway. You tweak it, you adjust it, you turn it into an app, right? You get your partnerships in place, and now you've brought it to a whole new market. And there's certainly something to be said there for everybody, that you might not necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. That's just kind of thinking a little bit from the entrepreneurial lens there, right? Okay, so my next question is around AI and partnership intelligence. So obviously, it's becoming pretty crucial, right? For I would imagine both financial services and partnership management. But how are AI tools, changing maybe how fintech companies, or even just broadly within strategic partnerships, how we're identifying, managing, optimizing those partnerships? How is it being
Well,
used?
I want to, yeah, that's a great question. AI is very appropriate in today's world, but we work a lot with Google Gemini and OpenAI at Partner Awesome, as well as in a few of our clients. To be honest with you, I've had some struggles, getting the AIs to understand like how we think at Partner also about identifying partnerships and identifying potential partners. And we still do things in a very old school and manual way, whether it's cold outreach, going to trade shows, going through our networks, to navigate to certain folks, to get to them to kind of unlock the door. And partnerships, I think, unlike direct sales, is always going to be a very old school relationship building, exercise, because it's an inherently human relationship building skill that I'm not sure that AI will ever really dominate. And if you're at an Adobe or Cisco or other companies where you already have thousands of partners signed up, and you want to do a campaign, or you want to do outreach, or you want to do whatever, I mean, AI could play a role, I think, in tapering a list, or in targeting certain partners if you're in the 100,000. So I definitely think there's definitely like an N8N angle there. There's definitely a content generation angle there. Where we live and partner also, we kind of we're on the lower end of that, where we work with a lot of startups and a lot of companies globally that want to get their programs started. So the way that we use AI is really, when it comes to content generation for websites, or content generation for webinars, and working through different SEO issues, and different ways to get the programs out into the world. That's how we really leverage AI, kind of in our universe. When it comes to partnerships overall, if I go back to my days at NetSuite, if we had AI back then, would it help us, generate lists, and would it help us, identify venues, and would it help us, get through a lot of the workflows for setting up events and putting different marketing, partner marketing endeavors together? Yeah, I think AI would be a huge help. But I think where we live in our world, it's more around content generation, and it's more about, what kind of efficiencies can we get, within our client base that could help our clients expand into the market quicker. And then once that happens, as you kind of go up that ladder, I think AI can attach itself to different rungs in that ladder. But we're always very careful to position it correctly, so we don't mismanage expectations, of the client, because AI is very much this very shiny object, but the applicability of the accuracy of what comes out of it, sometimes with the hallucinations or with the misunderstandings, sometimes it creates more work to go in and review and review and review, rather than click a button and then all of a sudden the magic happens. And we haven't
Right.
I haven't seen that yet, to be honest with you, in partner land, that you click a button and
Yeah,
some platform just.
I don't think we're quite at, Terminator 2 levels yet, where we're gonna be up against the machine army, but I do certainly think, yeah, it could be a force multiplier, a productivity multiplier, if you will. Especially, I'm very interested in seeing how these use cases develop, broadly speaking within go-to-market. Because if you think about you're a kind of modern day sales rep, at least in the industries where I've played, right? SaaS, fintech, and consulting overall. You have to wear a lot of hats, right? It's not
Yeah.
necessarily like you're at the used car dealership and you just compliment somebody. Like you have to really do your homework because you have to be a trusted advisor almost.
Right.
So I
Right.
think certainly it could help with some of those multiple different kind of tasks. But I suppose time will tell.
I agree with you when it comes to content generation, when it comes to research, and especially what we found, with Google Gemini. They have that deep research button where you can, feed it documents, you could feed it images, you could feed it information, and then through the prompts, go through and tell it what to do. I mean, that has been such an amazing, breath of fresh air, and that Google really got it right with that particular feature function. To be honest with you, we use that a lot, for a lot of our clients, because it does deliver a tremendous amount of value. So when we talk about the force multiplier, when it comes to sales, or when it comes to partner marketing, or when it comes to content generation, that specific feature, and that specific, Gemini AI really has delivered a tremendous amount of value for us, over the last
Right.
6 months.
I think the more you use these tools and the better understanding you have of kind of, as far as the LLMs at least, of just prompting.
Right.
Otherwise, it's the classic garbage in, garbage out, right? You have to kind of create those parameters.
Yeah, but
Um,
if I could give some insights, Hamza, if I could, the thing that I found is that, our typical go to market for clients is like, WordPress, Astra Pro, AI SEO, right? Those are really the three fundamental things that we use when we build new websites or partner programs for new brands. But the cool thing that we found about Gemini, it's like, hey, go to wpastrapro.com, whatever the website is. Look at the templates they have. We need a title, we need a one-line description, we need a description, and then there's four content boxes. They have a title, they have a one-line descriptor, and then they have a paragraph. And what Gemini will actually do is generate the content of these very esoteric, these really detailed fintech topics, and then we just have to copy and paste it into the website. It is absolutely incredible. Again, this is online advertising 101. You have an empty banner space. You have a client. They fill it. Boom. You make money. It's a classic example of that, where if you really know where the technology it can do, and you know where the content is going to land, and you could tell an AI, serve up the content in this way, brother, that is a game changer. It's a
Mm-hmm.
game changer because no more does that dev or even what a member of my team have to sit there and go, okay, I'm gonna take that, I move that there, I move that. No, it's boom, copy paste, copy paste. I without a doubt we could probably figure out a way to have like Gemini just like send the content over to WordPress. But again, if I could give an insight to those that are listening, when you could get to that level of alacrity, that level of like acute clarity with how you manage the prompts in AI, in this case Gemini, which is our preferred AI, that is what really speeds. So you want to talk about a force multiplier when you could just copy paste and then go back to Gemini to make the images, and then put those in there, just go through Photoshop and make some adjustments, upload it, you're done. I mean, we get clients to market now in weeks with like brand new brands or brand new sites. It really just works, and the other cool thing is that when you put in, again, for the go to markets, when you add in like SEMrush or you add in like the AI SEO tools to that, that's where the rubber starts to meet the road. That's when brands, can deploy and be number 119 in their rankings, and then go all the way up to like page one, slot five. So when you talk about how AI helps, I think what we've seen for our clients, whether it's GTM or it's partnerships, I mean, if I could give an insight, and again, everything that I just said out of pocket with the cost of the domain, maybe $217, right? Whereas prior to our conversation, you might have to add like one or two zeros to that number, to get to that point in time, with the client to get them really market ready. So it's a very exciting time when you know how to leverage AI correctly. It's a very exciting time.
I'm really happy to hear that you're embracing it at Partner Awesome. I'll tell you, just a few short months ago, when I was as a executive consultant at a firm, we were not really allowed to use AI tools. It was the policy, and they were like, no, no, we're building our own in-house. You can't use blah blah blah. I would have had countless nights saved. Like my hair started going gray from just after dinner formatting slides for like 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. Uh,
It's like I tell people, my gray hairs are not from my 18-year-old daughter. It was really my days. It's really my days at Oracle when we had to just kind of go through those exercises. But yeah, but if you don't go through the pain, you can't
you can't
you'll
appreciate it.
just never know what success looks like. So
Yeah.
yeah, you have to the struggle is good, the challenge is good, because then you know what victory looks like, and it's always good to be victorious.
So Jason, our last question today. So if we look ahead the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, um, what do you think will some of these fintech partnership ecosystems look like? What do you expect? And I know anything could happen. 5 years might be too much.
What I'm expecting, I think we're going to see a repeat of the early 2000s. When Visa was buying CyberSource and all these different kind of companies that sprung up. I think we're going to find that the billion-dollar entities that act like tankers instead of speedboats are going to start buying up the speedboats. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of consolidation. I think that Bitcoin is going to continue to go up. I believe that crypto, in terms of moving money, is going to become a standard. I think that the whole idea of digital wallets is going to be simplified and adopted by many countries, and I think just like the way America is heading towards its own coin, against the U.S. dollar, which is a dollar one against the dollar. I think that a lot of transactions are going to go down the crypto route because it's going to be easier for governments across the world to really track the movement of money in ways that they can't track the movement now with cash, and they struggle to track the movements with check. And I think that you know we're going to see a really massive alignment of that because the blockchain does a lie. We're going to see fraud happen, I think, in ways that we never could have imagined. We're going to see spoofed blockchain. We're going to see spoofed, different threats of cybersecurity we never saw happen before. So I think it's going to be a blend of amazement where, the good actors, the good folks like ourselves are going to leverage this technology in a very proper way. But I think it's going to be tremendously consolidated over time. So specifically with the visas of the world and global payments, and Stripe and others are gonna really start to consolidate, and you're gonna see market contraction at the end. And I think like those that are the Marquetas of the world and the Stripes of the world, they're the ones who are going to come out ahead because they're going to get ahead of the blockchain. They're going to get ahead of the Bitcoin and the crypto, I think, sooner than later. But but at the same point in time, the bad actors are going to figure out how to steal, and it's going to be a little bit harder to trace where the money is. So I think fraud is going to definitely be, I think, a much bigger threat to the average consumer than it was based upon this technology. But the same thing could be said when credit cards came in, and the same thing could be said when
Right.
when cash really started to become king,
Right.
in the 1800s. So it's not that it's a new problem. It's just what are the tools going to be out there to mitigate. So that's where I really see all of this going in about 5 years.
Just yesterday I spoke to somebody in cybersecurity with, experience in DoD and in the intelligence community, and he informed me that ransomware packages on the deep web go for as cheap as like between $50 to $500. You get a
Yep.
whole kit and a how-to guide to do whatever you need to do. It's kind of nuts. Well, hey, Jason, this has been a fascinating exploration and an interesting conversation. So I want to thank you again for taking the time and for being on the show.
Sure. My pleasure.
Jason, where can people find you and reach out?
Partnerawesome.com. I think is a great place just to check the website, fill out a contact form. Jason at partnerawesome.com, or just go on LinkedIn and type in Jason Asher and you'll find me. So I can be found in a bunch of different places. Or if you're in and around the Boca Raton area, frequently bike ride on Sundays here, and you'll catch me, around Montoya Circle. So yeah, so there's a bunch of different places where people can find me. It's not that hard. I'm about 5'11", 220. I'm not that hard to come across. That's on my wife. So.
Well, again, thank you, Jason. That's a wrap for this episode of Amplify AI Partners. I'm Hamza, and we'll see you next time as we continue to explore how AI is amplifying business transformation.